college, I was actually supposed to be becoming a accounting major, but I did have a math teacher that saw something in me, and she was just like, I just think you'll be a good math teacher. So Miss Brown, wherever she's at, she inspired me to be a math teacher.
I always wanted to be a teacher, and I had my high school English teacher, who I'm still in contact with today. I wanted to have the same impact he had on me with one child. I was like, if I get one child, then I've done my job.
Well, for me, it's extremely personal. When I was 4 years old, my father lost his battle with cancer, causing my mother to have to go back to school. She left the military, and for me, on paper, I was very much a product of what we call Title I schools now. I had mobility issues, we moved around a lot. At one point, I lived with my aunt and her 2 children and her husband. So school for me was a safe place.
Knowing that you can be planting seeds for like really amazing things in the future. So even when things are hard and you're not getting that like, you know, I'm doing a great job feeling, it's like, okay, but who knows what seeds I'm planting now that'll bloom later.
I think most teachers get into the profession because we are passionate about kids. It's a really difficult job. It's a lot of long hours and a lot of stress, and no one goes into it without passion for the students.
My students, the light bulb that goes off when they get something that I'm explaining. What I love most is teaching them through life experiences, which is the reason I'm doing this now, I think.
My job is very drastic. Not only are my kids special needs, but they also have behavioral concerns as well. So a lot of times when I had to go in the mornings, start my day off with actually handling personal care for some of my kids.
On a daily basis, our kids are coming with no paper, no pencils. It's just the little things. They're not coming with those. So we have to constantly keep, purchasing those. Money coming out of teacher pockets.
I have a class of 7 kids, and I don't even have enough stuff for my 7 kids to use if I take them to the computer lab. But then again, my computer lab is also the conference room, so if you schedule a parent-teacher conference, our kids can't go to the computer lab. So that's the day that we can't go in that area. We don't even have enough space to we don't have a teacher's lounge. We share that with a copy machine.
We have textbooks that date back to, I looked at one the other day in the English 1 class. I believe the textbooks date back to 2001 when they were published, and they were issued in 2002. I've heard stories of history textbooks that still have George W. Bush as president.
On Monday, if my student gets hurt, there aren't nurses funded every day, so I have to put on my nurse hat. On Tuesday, if my student is going through something, if their parent passed or their house was hit by a tornado, there's not a counselor on Tuesday because I share a counselor with 3 other schools.
So my 4th block class has 34 kids in it, and 17 of them have IEPs, which means they're students who receive special education services. I have, I think it's 6 or 7 kids who are off grade level, which means they're not on track to graduate. And I have like 6 or 7 English language learners in that class. So needless to say, there's kids with a lot of needs. And that doesn't even begin to capture the personal struggles that some of these kids are.
Our 6th graders currently have 35 kids in the class with 1 teacher, and you're pulling us with a rope on our neck, telling them why they're not proficient. It's because there's too many kids in the classroom.
It's like you're in it by yourself, basically, that you're up against the world and all you really have is the best of intentions, and there's nobody there to hold your hand through it, that you have to just do it yourself.
Regardless of what you believe will actually fix things that are wrong, education is called out as the solution to the problems that we have. Like, how are we going to fix poverty? Education. How are we going to fix racism? Education. Like, how are we going to fix, all the problems that we have? And that's the answer that people want to have. And yet we are not treating that like it's the solution to our problems by fully funding schools, by really investing in kids, by investing in teachers.
A lot of teachers have reached a critical mass of this frustration because, 5-6 years ago I was advocating for, I would talk to teachers about things like this, and teachers are rule followers, and they just no, it won't work, and no, I can't do it. And I think just like in a lot of states, we've just hit a critical mass. I mean, there's only so long you can be dumped on before you just
teachers have changed the narrative for themselves. I think that when I talk to my mother, who is also an educator, and she says, oh, that's just the way it's always been. And I'm like, well, that's pretty insane.
I'm going as a teacher and a parent. I have an almost 13-year-old girl, daughter who goes to Coronado, and I want the best for her.
On May 16, I want the world to see that you have a lot of teachers out here that love what they do. We love educating our kids. You have tied our hands long enough.
I don't know, like the more that's happening, the more I think is possible. But I mean, even if all that we achieved was to start a conversation and send a message that there is huge support for public schools and that people are willing to take risks and fight for them, even if that's all that happened, that would not be a loss to me.
And I want better for them. And I know that if we're gonna get better for them, then we educators, we have to fight for that. We have to fight for our kids. And that's the only way that it's gonna happen, is if we all stand together and say our students deserve better, they deserve more. They deserve more in our schools, and they also deserve more in our communities, and their families deserve better.
That this is not about an R, it's not about a D, it's about an E. And that there's not a profession in the world that has not been touched by education. So it's time for us to raise our voices and advocate for our students, not just every day. Every teacher who's ever asked a parent to buy classroom supplies for the entire class, every teacher who has stayed late till 6 coaching a game or taking their students, giving them after-school tutoring for free, needs to make sure that they're there. Our teacher assistants need to be there. Our counselors, who are not funded everywhere, need to be there.
Now is the time to rise up, support public education.
Get on board, no district left behind.
Please join us on May 16th.
But join us on May 16th.
Join us on May 16th. Join me on May 16th.
Come and join us on May 16th. Let's fight for the schools our students deserve.